Okay, this man up here, Ty Adams, he's traveling from the great state of Minnesota. Yeah, we can say that. There are some purple-loving people in here. I'm going to stand next to them. Because as Minnesota people in a room of the green and gold, we have to stay together. I am not going to boast about records of football teams at all this year because nobody went to the playoffs except the other guys. All right? I know there are some people from Chicago here, so yeah, you had a good year. Way to go. Ty came here a year ago and he was said, I want to come back. I want to share. I want to share with these guys in Wausau. And that actually never happens. I just want you to know that. So I'm really happy he's here. So let me tell you a little bit about Ty before he gets going on his talk today. Ty is born and raised in Minnesota. He is the youngest of 3 boys. He is the son of an Assemblies of God pastor. When he was 6 years old, his family traveled around the country with a tow-behind trailer, and his family performed kids' crusades in various churches in over 30 states. Eventually, his family settled in Ortonville, Minnesota. When he was in 3rd grade, he was very involved in football, basketball, baseball, a 3-season athlete. He graduated high school in 1988 and moved to Minneapolis area and attended the University of Minnesota. Ty Adams has held various positions over the years, from his early working years as a child care educator in the public school system to being a consultant business analyst for major agricultural firms. In 2003, Ty branched into business as an entrepreneur, starting several companies in the construction field, such as Patriot Service Network, Legacy Restoration, and Adams Business Results Incorporated. Ty is blessed to be married to his wife Audra for 16 years. Together they have 3 awesome children, Grace, Charlie, and Hannah, 14, 13, and 10 respectively. Ty and his family currently reside in Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. So let's give it up with a big warm Wausau welcome for Ty.
Well, thanks, John. Can everybody hear me? Check, check. Are we good?
Yep.
Okay. Well, I pretty much said what I was going to say, so see you guys later. I'm glad you guys have signed up for my failure course. So you should leave today being better at failure. And actually, that's kind of a joke, but not really. If I've always found in my life, as I've continued to fail, that as I've gotten better at it, my successes have followed. So I want to kind of take you through some fundamentals that I've learned along the way and share with you, a little bit about my life, and hopefully we can come away with this with some things to work on as far as failure is concerned. So titles, fundamentals of failure, but broken before breakthrough is really the subcontext of what we're talking about here. Some little known facts, as you've heard, married, now going on to 17 years, the youngest of 3 boys, that my 2 older brothers made me a smart ass, really. The only way I could get back at them, we got the belt. So my dad grew up, he's the son of hillbillies. My grandparents, his parents grew up in the foothills of Kentucky, and he got the switch. So he took it down a notch and gave us the belt, and I took it down a notch and gave my kids the SWAT. But the only way I could get back at my older brothers for beating up on me is coaxing them into hitting me or doing something in front of my parents. So they really made me the person that I am. So, son of a preacher man, you've heard that. I grew up around the church. My dad, his forte was to take small churches and grow them, resign, and move on to another small church. So where I grew up in Ortonville, when we moved there were 2 families in the church. And when we left, it was actually when I graduated in 1988, there was 200 people in that church. So that's kind of what my dad did all over the place. I've had various careers. I started out doing child care. When I was going to the University of Minnesota, I opened doors in the St. Louis Park School District. One day they needed somebody to fill in for an after-school child care, and since I'm a big kid, it worked out. So I did that for about 7 years, and during that time, I went through some failures, which I'll get into a little bit here. But I got married and then got divorced and then went on to other things. You see the mixologist there? That's a fancy way of saying bartender. So I did bartending. I learned a lot of great things in bartending, how to deal with difficult people, how to deal with difficult people when they're drunk, and that's just the people I was working with. So that gave me great motivation to get out of that industry. And so I got into the IT background. That was, 99 time frame, Y2K. They were basically throwing money at people who could turn on a computer. So I decided to get in on that wave and became a database consultant and worked that for a couple of years. And then lo and behold, my next foray as a career was door-to-door sales. I left the IT space. The Land O'Lakes was trying to get me away from the consulting company, and they were negotiating back and forth. It was like 2-3 months. It was taking way too long. And in that time frame, one of my friends that I gained while I was bartending, he told me about this knocking on doors, selling roofs, hail dams. I'm sure you guys have heard of that. Where a storm comes through and you knock on a door and you provide a free inspection to homeowners and let them know if they have cause to make a claim and then assist them through that process. So he told me all this money that he was making, and he was kind of loose with the truth, so I didn't look into it right away. And as my consulting company, Land O'Lakes, was kind of going back and forth, I finally asked him, well, show me your bank statements. I want to be able to see if it was a real opportunity. And yeah, lo and behold, he made more money in 4 months than I did all year. So I decided to try that out. I had never done sales before. And construction, I'd never done that before. So I didn't really know anything about homes, but I knew how to talk to people. So fortunately or unfortunately, I've always been a risk taker in my life. And so that's something that I decided to try out to do. And it ended up, I made a career into it. I went from the sales rep, door to door, to being a sales manager, started my own company, became a business owner, and down the road I became a president of a company that I just left about a year ago, so I'll get more into that as well. Other interesting things, missing both big toenails. Not too many people can say that. It's one of my greatest joys. I played a lot of sports. My toenails would turn black, they fall off, they grow back in sideways, and I have the ingrown toenails. One of the best decisions I've ever made was to have those suckers yanked and have the nail beds burned out. So I do not experience that pain at all anymore. So if you do, you guys might want to consider it. Randy Moss. So yeah, I had a little fight with him. This was during my bartending days. I really did 3 things during bartending. I worked, which is about 20 hours a week. I worked out and I partied. So this particular day, it was 99 time frame, and this right after the Vikings 98 season, 15-1, and I'm working out, lifting the weights, and I'm leaving, and I look into the court. There's a guy that looks familiar. He's playing basketball, so I take a closer look, and he's got that cursive R on his bicep. It's Randy Moss. So I'm like, oh, I got to play against Randy Moss. So I go ahead and sign up for the basketball game, and I get to play next, and I'm playing against him. And there was a guy that I was playing with who was a phenomenal shooter. He could hit anywhere from 40 feet in the end. And I was a decent scorer, but if I'm going to play with somebody who scores a lot, I'm going to go pick for them. Well, Randy was guarding that guy. So I was picking, going up to Randy, just hitting those picks. He was getting sick of it, right? So he finally led with his elbow, and my 2 older brothers were wrestlers, so I'm a fairly good wrestler, so as soon as he led with his elbow, I leaned into him, grabbed the back of his thighs, and pumped him down on the court, and we had tussled a little bit. So they were like, don't you know who this guy is? I'm like, yeah, I'm a season ticket holder, right? But if I set a pick, I don't care if you're Jesus himself, you got to go around. He did apologize at the end of the game, by the way, so I thought that was pretty cool. And then just another oddity. My wife, my wife's dad, and my mom, we all share June 7th as a birthday. That actual date brought my wife and I together. We had a mutual friend who their wedding anniversary was June 7th, so just kind of an oddity, but kind of a cool little known fact. So June is like Christmas at our household. There's one of my whys, or four of my whys, and very blessed. And to look at this picture and know some of the crap that I've gone through in my life, mostly self-inflicted, as I'll inform you guys on. To be able to be blessed with a loving wife and to have kids actually is, against all odds, the way that I lived my life during that time frame while I was bartending. So, what is failure? Okay, I mean, you look it up in the dictionary, you look it up online, and it's pretty simple. It's lack of success. There's some other little definitions to it, but that's primarily what it is. So anything that you're trying to do and you're not able to do it. I think we can agree everybody fails. Everybody fails at different levels every day. Yesterday I had a great fail on the way here. I stopped off at one of my clients in Minneapolis and stepped down out of my truck, and whoop, my feet went up over my head. Thank the Lord I didn't hit my head, otherwise I wouldn't be here. But got my back, and thankfully I'm a little beaky back there. I got a little bruise back there. Scuffed up my elbow. That was a fail. But I was able to survive it. Just bled just a little bit. Types of failure. If you again look up failure, there's all different levels of failure. You're going to have the abject failure. If you look up what abject means or synonyms to it, I mean it's wretched, miserable, pathetic, woeful, degrading, atrocious, awful. I've definitely done those many times associated with that next one, the moral failure. Glorious failure. I think of the first time when I was a kid on my dirt bike and I decided to go over that jump. You work up the gumption and you go and you hit it and then you come down and you crash, right? To me, that's kind of like an Evel Knievel type of epic or glorious failure. Your common everyday failures, you forget things. Who forgets things in this room? I mean, all the time, right? Predicted failure. So, it's not my intention to spend a lot of time on these different types, just to know that we have all sorts of kind of failures going on. You got preventable complex, that's multi-levels, intellectual, which is, I do that several times a day. Health failure. One of the reasons I'm wearing this lovely vest is to hide my health failure here over the last couple of months. I got this nice little baby growing here. And that's definitely a health failure of mine. I'm trying to get back onto the eating healthy, exercise, doing the things that we know that make us feel good. But for whatever reason, us humans, we do the things that we know aren't good for us. I don't know why. Maybe because we live in a fallen world. Failure of tactics, strategy, vision, leadership. A lot of these failures I deal with my clients. I have a lot of clients that, they average, they're construction clients. They could be anywhere from a $500,000 to $1 million company on up to a $20, $25 million company. The leadership failure is prevalent. Everything, as John Maxwell would say, rises and falls on leadership, and it's so true. How many times have you seen a sports team? How many times have you seen a business unit? Could be people that are average, right? They're not like the Michael Jordans or the superior top 1%, but they get the results. They win because they play together as a team. And how they play together as a team is because somebody provides the leadership, whether it's a coach, whether it's somebody on the team or on the field or on the court, they provide that leadership. I make some good money based on leadership failures in people's companies. Leadership is tough. It's a tough deal. Many people think, I'm going to sign up to be a leader. I'm going to be a manager. And once they get there, they realize this little saying that I love, management would be great if it weren't for the people. So a truism. Then you have other types of failures. You have wardrobe failures, okay? So if you guys are still going down this road, I would just suggest checking out the boxer briefs. Those are fantastic. I'm not going to spend too much time here on that, but just another example of failure. All right, so one of the things I want to try to help you guys get your minds around is really the way you think about failure. And failure has all of these connotations: stress, grief, anger, sadness. I mean, that's very common the way that we view failure, and it's the way I viewed failure all my life. The only way that I was able to succeed as a door knocker was my, I don't know if it was fear of failure, but I just got married, remarried, right? So in 2002, started knocking on doors. I got married, and I did great the first couple of weeks. Signing up contracts, getting business, and then all of a sudden, I hit that dip like every salesperson has. The reason I didn't stop, the reason I didn't go back to consulting, which would have been easy, that they were calling me, hey Ty, come on back, we'll give you more money, you can do this, we'll give you a better cubicle, whatever the case may be. And it all sounded attractive, especially after getting your butt kicked out, doing door-to-door knocking. That's like warfare. Not really, but it's very mind-wise. It's very tough. A lot of rejection. And I didn't, because I'm stubborn, and I didn't want my wife to see me as a failure. By the way, I just bought a new truck, a $40,000 F-250. This is back in 2002. Our home was our first house payment was $767 per month. I financed the F-250 for 0% 3 years. It was $1,100. So I kind of had some motivation there as well. Hey, I'm an IT consultant driving this F-250. So I had some motivation there. Our failure response. These are some typical. Of course, there are other options, but this is typically where most people go. You get into that failure, you get into, doubting yourself, feeling sorry for yourself, feeling judged, whatever the failure may be. Shame definitely can play a part of it, especially if it's that abject or moral failure. Anger, that wasn't fair, I can't believe that happened to me. You kind of get pissed off at the world, and you get that resentment, you feel indignant, or you just, I think guys are really good at doing this, pretend it didn't happen, right? We're really good at compartmentalizing. I believe that is a strength of being a man, is to be able to take whatever that is, either it's a failure or an emotion, and just kind of put it over here. That's like the way my garage is. I got a bunch of stuff over here, right? And then, every 6 months I'll go, oh, okay, I got to deal with this stuff. And that's kind of the way it is here with failure. You definitely have to deal with it. Or that locus of control outside of yourself, blaming somebody else for your failure or something else. And, sometimes that could be the case. It could be somebody else's fault as to why you failed it if you're on a team. But if you're able to look at it and really take responsibility for what part that you had, going through my failed marriage, which I kiddingly say a lot of times to people that I had a practice wife. My first wife was my practice wife. Thank the Lord we didn't have to have kids together. And, it's easy to go to say it was all her fault and she was this way, but I have to take responsibility and accountability and own up to my part. And thankfully, I was able to get through that and move through it and learn some lessons from it. Make me a better husband in my marriage now. All right, so why am I talking to you guys today about failure? I've experienced a tremendous amount of failure, success, and bona fide miracles. There's a lot of things that have happened in my life that it doesn't make me special. It just, it just happened. I was molested by a babysitter when I was a little boy. I don't remember it. My brothers tell me about it. I think I was like between 2 and 3. But it has a lot to do with why I've struggled with lust in my life. I was pre-sexualized. I had you know, dreams, sexual dreams at 4 and 5 years old. That's insane. I mean, think about that. Those dreams that I had at that age, I can vividly remember now. Okay, so that's something that I've had to battle all my life. And but it's part of life, right? I'm not going to just say, well, woe is me, and oh, I've got a license to go ahead and do the dumb things that I've done in my life in the past, that I can do them in the future. No, I've got to be able to have a game plan around traps in my life, around failures, known failures in my life. You know, I've had miracles. I mean, incredible miracles. I got this elbow here that I busted when I was 10 years old, and the bone broke right here, and the doctor had to cut it open, get the bone, put it back in, and he said, you have about a 50-50 shot of having a prosthetic. Like, my arm wouldn't move, have more mobility than this, and if that was the case, they would chop it off and give me a prosthetic. So I got this little thing. So I go back 2 weeks later to the doctor after they put the pins in, and they're going to put me in a hard cast, and they do the x-ray, and Dr. Stroop comes out and says, I don't know how to tell you this, but we need to take the pins out. Your son's elbow is completely healed. For 2 weeks, I mean, my arm looked like a Popeye, was still swollen, but I was swimming that afternoon. Bona fide miracle. You can't explain that medically, how that would happen. I broke this while roller skating, and that took 3 months, and it was just a little wrist fracture. I had my tonsils removed. I have sleep apnea. Because my doctor said, your deductible is up. Let's just go ahead and take out those tonsils that are a little bit larger than normal. Maybe your sleep apnea will go away. I'm 40 years old. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Take out the tonsils, and I wake up one night bleeding. So they tell you, if you have arterial, I mean, that's arterial bleeding. If you're bleeding there, get to the emergency room. You could die, right? So I have a sleep apnea, so I sleep with a mask. I believe the pressure from that mask blew those scabs off. I woke up like a garden hose, spraying out blood, spraying out of my mouth. I'm in our bathroom, and I catch a glimpse of myself in the mirror, and I just got blood everywhere. It was like a horror movie. It was incredible. And in my mind, I'm going down. This is it. I'm done. And my wife's like, what do I do? You know, it's 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. She's freaking out. I'm like, bleeding. Call 911. So she calls 911, and then she says, what do I do? What do I do? And I was like, pray. She lays her hand on me. We don't know what she prayed. Done bleeding. I mean, again, bona fide miracle. The paramedics show up. We lived close to, at the time, to an ambulance bank. And so they were there in less than 5 minutes. They were coming in ready to cauterize. They showed up and they're like, well, apparently you were bleeding, but you're not bleeding anymore. I mean, there was blood everywhere. So I went to the hospital the next couple of days just for them to observe me. But again, bona fide miracle. So, you know, I've experienced a lot of tremendous things in my life, from failures to miracles to success. I mean, after I got into door knocking and started my own business, and I was working with this other company, and we were doing a joint venture. It was 2006, 2007 time frame. I was making so much money, it was like monopoly money. I literally was getting sick of going to the bank, because every time you brought in a check over $10,000, I mean, it was like, call the cops, right? I mean, it's like insane. So I would go deposit my checks at the ATM. I was depositing $100,000 checks at the ATM at the Super America. It was just crazy. So, I mean, again, there's some crazy success that I've had. It's just kind of been all over the map. Another reason why am I talking to you, a lot of this stuff, as I alluded to earlier, self-inflicted. But many of these are just, life moments, and how are you going to respond to them? I've screwed up several times in my life, sometimes to epic proportions. I do not have a college degree. I went to the University of Minnesota. I'm 12 credits short of a college degree. I started off in accounting, loved accounting in high school. The U took that out of me. Then I went to economics, took that to the 5,000 level. I was like, didn't really like it. But I had to take this one course that satisfied a liberal arts section, right? And that was sociology. I took sociology and I was like, oh man, I love that stuff. So, I went through that college and I got close, but at the same time, I was going through my failed marriage. It's not an excuse. I mean, I didn't go to school. When I went to the University of Minnesota, it was a horrible experience. My class sizes were 1,000 people. I'd show up, the TA would read from the book, so I figured, well, why even show up? I'll just go get the syllabus on the first day, find out when the midterm and the final is, read the 20 chapters before each, and we'll call it good, C equals degree. I never finished, and it's an interesting thing, though, that I never finished because that particular piece of information has helped me mentor and coach people who've never been to college. Some of my most successful salespeople that I've trained that have made $300,000 plus on a regular basis barely have a GED. It was around getting them to pull themselves back and stop looking at yourself the way society looks at you. You do not need a piece of paper for you to consider yourself a success. And not having a piece of paper doesn't mean you're a failure. Though I failed to get my college degree, so that's another part of my story. There's no way around it, right? I'm a Vikings fan, and there's some painful moments as a Vikings fan. NFC Championship moments, it's just obviously 1998. Gary Anderson, are you kidding me? The only field goal he misses all year long. I mean, you can't make that up. It doesn't even make any sense. Finally, the Bears, felt a little bit of our pain of missed field goals this past week. The 2041 don't. I mean, that's just, how do you get to the NFC Championship and have that great of a season and you just don't show up? So, having to be a lifelong Vikings fan, you deal with a lot of pain. And I've often felt that, God loves Vikings fans more because he talked about, those that are last will be first. So, that's not great to think about. And there is one little piece here that it's a very little known fact, but the Vikings actually do have an NFL championship, 1969. Most people don't know that. You guys have Titletown, and a lot of your titles include NFL championships that were before the Super Bowl era. So we did get an NFL championship. This was in the Super Bowl era, but anyway, something I can hang my hat on until whenever, right? Broken before breakthrough. Trying to really get a template, a mindset for you guys to think about failure. And that in order for you to have breakthrough in your life, in order for you to have success in your life, you have to experience failure. It's part of it. It's not the opposite. Failure is not the opposite of success. It's part of success. It's the first step of success. It all depends on how you think about it, though. What is your mindset? I love this quote. Cynthia Ocelli, she wrote a book, something like The Resurrection of Venus or something like that. I don't agree with the book, but I like this particular quote. And that, for a seed to achieve its greatest expression, it must come completely undone. The shell cracks, its insides come out, and everything changes. To someone who doesn't understand growth, it will look like complete destruction. I relate to this little quote. The shell cracks. I mean, when I've gone through failure, my exterior, I feel broken, My insides come out. I gush, I cry. I'm one of those guys that I do get emotional. I do cry. It was a gift from my father. My dad was a pastor, and almost every time he preached, he cried. It was embarrassing to me as a kid, but I found out later in life what a gift that is. Crying is awesome, so I highly recommend you cry, which isn't something that you would hear too often. All right, keep it moving here. I'm going to try to go through these as quick as possible as my time is drawing to a close. By the way, did Derek Strawberry finish at 1 o'clock? He did? All right. Tough act to follow. My dad, talked about my dad being a pastor. When I was 30 years old, okay, my dad went down for 20 minutes. He was dead. Paramedics revived him. He was rewarded with living for the next 5 years in a coma. He got fed through a peg through his stomach. And it was a traumatic experience because my dad wasn't just a great guy, he was like one of my best friends. I became really close with him. I was always close with him, but you find out when you become an adult, if you really if you have a good dad relationship, that you become friends. And he was just a great mentor, one of the smartest guys I knew. And here it is, my dad's being rewarded with this 5 years in a coma. He's been a servant of the Lord ever since he was a young man. I mean, he's done tremendous things. He gave up offers to large churches. He had an offer for a large church, one of these mega churches before there were mega churches out in San Francisco, to make like $100,000. I was like, dude, why are you not doing it? And that just wasn't him. He liked the small churches. He liked to grow the churches, and he liked to have those relationships with the people in his church. Did a lot of work with drug and alcohol treatment centers, and this was a time that I was between gigs as a consultant. My consulting company allowed me to work from his bedside. So my mom and I took shifts. She did 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. I did 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. And it was at that time where I was like, okay, what do I do? I'm forced to look at what do I really believe. All right, I've always called myself a Christian. I grew up, a preacher's kid. I could fake it. I knew all the things you could say, and I knew some verses, but I never really dove into the Bible until that point in time. And I dove into the Word like I never did before. And it's a defining moment in my life because it's really propelled me in my thought and now actions as to how I want to live my life. And there's 3 areas that God got a hold of me. Okay, so the first one was the apologetics. We're called to know why we believe what we believe. I didn't. Why do you believe in Jesus? Well, because my dad's a pastor. That's not an answer. That's not good enough. That doesn't get you salvation. And so I was looking at that, and that led me to apologetics. If you ever believe that there isn't evidence for Christian faith, oh man, there's volumes of evidence. Evidence that demands James McDowell. It's like written like a college text. It's about that thick, and there's a tremendous amount of archaeological, scientific, geographical, just ton of proof for the validity of the Bible. And then the other things that God got my attention for was the end times, the eschatology. I just got to go past that because I could spend 2 days there for sure. And then men's issues. Today's society, I believe we've been downgraded. Society has decided, men, you have been atrocious to the world history. Going through the Kavanaugh hearings, one of the senators out in Hawaii, and I can't remember her name, but she basically said, men need to shut up and step up, right? I don't know if any of you guys saw that, but that's the prevailing thought on men today. And the sad part is that emasculation, men are buying into it. We are becoming less of the warriors that we were meant to be. We are becoming less risk takers. It's easier to not be risky. But we're built to risk. We're built to adventure. We're built to be warriors. And if we miss that, there's that gap, and that's the thing that you can't put your finger on as to why you're not feeling fulfilled. That's part of it anyway. I'm gonna just quick go through these. I had my Patriot business in 2010. We were growing leaps and bounds. Seemingly overnight, my AR was growing big, which was awesome, except it was also growing old, which means the likelihood of you collecting it is very low. I thought I was in an industry that was impervious to economic downturns. This time, building for construction is down, but storm restoration, I mean, insurance pays for most of that and people pay their deductibles, right? Unless the people steal their last checks. So I had to the tune of $750,000 across the country: Cleveland, Madison, Wisconsin, Minneapolis, Eau Claire, Cedar Falls, Iowa, Omaha, Nebraska, Wichita, Kansas, Denver, Colorado. People taking their last check from the insurance company saying, you know what? My mortgage is $600,000 and it's worth $200,000. I'm taking this money. So I went out of business. Oh, that was a grand old time, you know, having to deal with that. I got this little bullet point here about the airplane ride heading to Cleveland. I mean, I had to lay everybody off. I'm trying to keep it all together, and I'm flying all over the country trying to keep it together. And I'm riding from Minneapolis to Cleveland. I'm sure there was a stop somewhere in between because very rarely can you get that straight shot. And I'm in the little puddle jumper, you know, the ones where I feel like I'm a big guy at 5'10". Whoa, I fit inside this airplane. I'm sitting down and I just break down. I'm like, I'm bawling. The guy next to me has got to be like, oh, dude, what's going on? But I'm bawling. I'm just like, Lord, where are you? You blessed me with this business. Why am I here now? It doesn't even make any sense. And that was part of me not dealing with it, just kind of, you know, stuffing it, and then it finally came out in that particular way. But it was a big moment for me to really, because I was also crying out to the Lord. You know, before it was normal prayers. Then my prayers got a little, I don't know, maybe I'm a little bit too old to use the term, but they got buck, right? I mean, I got raw with God. And dare I say, sometimes a little pissed. And God's okay. He's okay with your emotion. He built you that way, right? We are a reflection of Him. We are a copy of Him, the way that we experience emotions. And so he's okay for you to have those things. Meanwhile, at the same time, my daughter asked the question, Dad, are all people in jail bad guys? By the way, if you're a contractor and you can't pay your bills, and the homeowners have paid you, but you haven't paid your subcontractor, it isn't just bad business, you go to jail. So I'm looking at this very real prospect. Nobody robs Peter to pay Paul on purpose, but it happens. Yeah, I got $1 million in AR, I'm gonna go ahead and do this. Well, what happens if the AR doesn't come? Somebody gets left holding the bill. So, yeah, my answer to her was, you know, most of the people are bad guys, but thank the Lord that I was able to work things out with my creditors and get that taken care of. Very, very, very humbling experience. But the breakthrough was humility. For me, I've always dealt with pride issues. I was in high school, I was the homecoming king, I was captain of all the sports. Typically got the girl that I wanted to get. I mean, that's kind of the life that I lived. So I was very prideful. I looked down on people that, I didn't drink. The first time I had a drink, I was 23. I looked down on people that got drunk. I looked down on people that got divorced. I looked down on people that had gone through bankruptcy, that had failed businesses. Ding, ding. All of a sudden, I'm raising my hand on each of those questions. So my pride's going down, my humility's going up, which is a huge spiritual leap for anybody, but especially for me. I continued to ask God why He was doing this. You know, I got silence from Him, and finally I got an answer when I was driving back from Madison, Wisconsin, and the answer was, paraphrase of course, dude, I've been answering you. Shut it down. I didn't want to hear that answer. I was prideful and. Well, no, I've got this company. I've got a national company. I'm a national general contractor. I hold licenses in 25 different states. Remember how I told you I didn't like construction? I still don't, but I can pass the test. And then, you know, that helped, that propelled me into becoming a president of Legacy Restoration, and, you know, I helped build that company to be a top 100 contractor. Let's see what time we got. We got 5 minutes, so I'm going to bust through this one. This last one is just really, I made a change about a year ago through circumstances that made sense for Legacy and myself to separate. It forced me to, you know, I was planning to retire at Legacy and then maybe in my 60s get into some speaking. I know I'm meant for ministry. I know I'm supposed to be speaking for the Lord. But you know, I'll just keep putting that off. Well, I think the Lord arranged, you know, for me to, you know, hyper jump, you know, into that glory a little bit. So, thanks, Lord. You know, it was dealing with uncertainty, obviously, loss of friendship and relationship. Not necessarily that I'm not their friends anymore, but when you go from seeing somebody every day to now you might, you know, text them or call them once a month. That's really a loss of those types of relationships. But, you know, something fantastic happened. My wife is usually pretty spastic around stress. She's a redhead, so she's extra spastic around stress. And, you know, we really just kind of mourned it for like 2 hours. But it was a major life change. And we looked at, well, what do you want to do? And we're like, okay, I want to start a consulting business, I want to get into speaking, I want to get into ministry, and now I've got the opportunity to do that. Normally my wife was like, how are we going to pay our bill? How are we going to do this? How are we going to do that? It was a complete God thing that she was on board. And it really put to my test my email signatures. Personally, I've got give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus. And my business one is things turn out best for the people who make the way of who make the best of the way things turn out. So again, it's a template. It's just a way to react to any and all life situations, failure, success, middle of the road, any of that. Okay. And then, you know, surrendering my role as provider. I'm the provider of this home. I send my kids to private school. We have this nice house, and I've got this nice truck, and I've got all these things. And, you know, how am I going to provide for that? And finally, just give it up to God. God will provide. You know, He may not provide as materially as He would like, but He will provide for you for your basic needs. And for me, and most people, He does beyond the basic needs. So Matthew 6:26, look at the birds of the air. They, you know, they do not sow, nor reap, nor gather in barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not worth much more than they? This is what Jesus said. And the answer is yes. Success, really, you look at, you know, one of Churchill's famous quotes, failing to failure without loss of enthusiasm. I mean, I could spend days talking about the different failures. You know, Michael Jordan, you know, 10th grade got cut from the varsity, right? He could have just said, you know, that sucks. But he didn't. Thomas Edison, I'm sure you've all heard how many times it took him to get the light bulb. Abraham Lincoln. Steve Jobs was fired by Apple. His company. He started his company, and he got fired because the board said, he's not nice. So the company he started, he gets booted from. Now, we all know he came back and made into one of the world's greatest companies. But Chris Gardner, I'm sure you've all seen the movie Pursuit of Happiness. It's one of my favorite movies. The guy just is overcoming. It's sometimes painful to watch, but it's pretty heroic. Henry Ford, on and on. I mean, there's just people all over the place. So at the end here, I'll give you my email address and all those things. If there's some things in these slides that you want, whether it's, you know, some things that I've written down on how I process failure, I'd be glad to send it to you. So if you're taking notes, cool. But if you aren't able to get something, just let me know and I'll send it over to you. But really, expect to fail. It's going to happen, right? Humility, process the emotion. 1 o'clock says, I gotta go, I get in the hook. Ask for help, forgiveness, whatever the case may be. And then really understanding the fundamentals, that is the first step towards success, and be thankful. I can spend a bazillion amount of time on this. The heroes of the Bible that have experienced failure. I mean, there's just the heroes that we have, God used failures. And that's what I love about the Bible, is it's real. The heroes in the Bible, they are not just superficial people that don't have problems. They got real problems, right? I mean, David, I like to focus in on David because he said David was a man after God's heart, right? And when I first started learning about David, I didn't know all these things, that he committed adultery and that he had one of his good friends killed so he could, hide that adultery, and he had some major issues, not unlike many of us, right? But God said, I love this dude because he had faith. Think of when he was a boy against Goliath, he was thankful, he confessed his sins, he was repentant, meaning when you repent, you turn away. It isn't just confession. If you confess and you keep doing it, you're not repenting. You got to turn away from what you're doing. And humble, and he desired the things of God and hated the things of God hated. Goals for the talk. I hope that this gives you guys some hope based on some truth. You're not alone. One of the power of leading with power is connection. You guys being together. God is going to play more of a role in your life through other people, through relationship. Sometimes you'll get that little light bulb, but not most of the time. Most of the time he's going to use relationship. So you need to seek the relationship out, because if you don't, you will be missing out on what God has for you. So go after that relationship. Like John said earlier, don't do that alone thing. Responding differently to failure. It will change your life. It'll impact the people around you. I spend so much time with my 3 kids trying to get them to be thankful for failures. It is such an opposite way that we're taught. We're taught to avoid it or do everything we can to avoid. My oldest, she's a type A. She'll study till 11:30, and if she gets a 3.97, that's a failure. I'm just like, look, I'd much rather you get a C and you try your hardest than get an A on something that everybody gets an A on, that you don't have to try or learn something, right? Guys, I'll get through this as quick as I can here, but really, this broken to breakthrough. There's some of you are about to be broken by failure. It's just a matter of fact. Whether it's the simple or whether it's that abject, it's going to happen. The percentage-wise, some of you are going to have failure soon, or you're living in failure now. All right? Don't do the isolation. You got to go out and ask. And for those of you that are on the verge, or you are experiencing breakthrough in your life, multiply it. Okay? Go. Try to encourage somebody. Try to seek somebody out. I know it's messy. It's so easy. I love just going to my house and getting in my recliner and having one of my favorite beers and watching one of my favorite shows. But that's not fulfilling. That's not spreading God's love. That's not spreading hope and encouragement. So please, if you can just dare, for 2019, dare to make one more personal relationship. You know what my extra personal relationship in 2018 was? Armin Asadi. That's who I came here with last year. He and I just met 2 weeks before I came here. Okay? And he's one of my best friends now. And we share ugliness together. In fact, one of the at New Year's, I sent him a text saying, "Hey man, I'm so glad to have gained you as a friend this year." And his response was, "I feel sorry for the people around us when we act like heathens," because we do act like it every now and again. But it's a great relationship where we've been able to encourage and refine each other. And then please, consider turning to God. He's forgiving, loving, encouraging. In all things, God works for the good, right? For those who love Him. It was, in Psalms it talks about it was good for me to be afflicted. It's not your typical mindset. Yay, I got afflicted today. But that's the way God gets your attention. And then, you know, finally, my grace is all you need. My power is strongest when you are weak. So I often say God is greatest in me. It's kind of prideful, but God's greatest in me than the rest of you because I'm more of a failure than you guys are. So I'm weaker than you, so He's greater than me. It's a little bit of a mind. And then here's my contact information, guys. I really want to be somebody who just doesn't come in, talk, say thanks, see you, never see you guys again. I do want to come back, whether it's just to sit at one of the tables and visit with you guys, but I want to be somebody who makes a difference. If there's somebody in this room that is going through some painful stuff right now, and you are shameful about it, and you're too embarrassed to connect with somebody that you know, call me. You don't know me. I'll talk to you. I'll tell you about some crap I've gone through. I'll associate with you, but I will point you to the Lord, all right? So please, call me, email me, text me, whatever, I don't care. I want to be somebody who makes a difference. I don't want to be somebody who just delivers a message and see you later. That's not what I'm about or what this is about. So that's it. Thanks, guys. I'm sorry for going over your time.
Thank you, Ty.